For those who don't know, Jeff Bronco Billy Browning, he is a professional ultra runner and arguably in the top 5 of the elite mountain ultra specialists at the 100-mile plus distance. It's certainly in the top 10, but based on his finishes, I would say the top 5. He's just coming off the heels of running the Moab 240. This is his first attempt at the 200-mile plus distance. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, that is my first time going that far.
Yeah, I can hear the enthusiasm for it in your voice.
It was a long way.
But you managed to get through it with the win and the course record on that particular course in spite of the heat, right?
Yep, I did. I managed myself pretty well. I mean, I did make some mistakes, but that was part of that was just first time mistakes that I wouldn't probably repeat a second time.
Okay. So is this like having a baby? Something you say you're
a little bit. Asked me when I finished when I was sitting in the chair with my feet in an ice bucket, will you do another one? And I was like, I think I like hundreds better, but after I've slept on it, now it's been, 2.5 weeks. I would probably do another one for sure.
But you do it a lot. You'd leverage all you've learned off of this one.
Yeah. And there's some little like biomechanical things that I need to work on. It made me realize that I have a couple of weaknesses still in the chain that I need to kind of sort out. And I think I know how to deal with them, but it just makes you a better runner to go that far because we always kind of joke as a coach. I always joke with my athletes, like ultra running screams your weaknesses. And I definitely going 200 plus definitely screams your weaknesses. So if you have some weakness in your chain somewhere, it will show up. So I think that was, there were some eye-opening things in that. There's some strategy stuff. I like the distance because of the strategy. The strategy. So there's so much more ways to like dial in logistics and crew, and it becomes pacers, and like there's so much more strategy, sleep deprivation and sleep strategy, because everyone's a little different in how much sleep they want or how good they function in sleep deprivation. And so even hydration and electrolyte balance, you and I've already chatted about this on just a side phone call about, I retained a bunch of water the first night because I kept my drink rate too high on the first night after the heat broke, and I retained water. And then once you retain that water, it's hard to get rid of that extra water, because I've had my sodium per liter test rate done. So I know what that is. And I have that pretty dialed in, but I did over drink the first night, and then I retained water. And then from that point forward, the only way to get rid of it is to pee it out. And that takes forever.
Right. And that's why I find that these sodium sweat tests are they're so misleading, because people do a test and they say, this is my sodium per liter water rate. And it's true at the time you take that test under the conditions you're taking that test.
Well, no. I would even argue, no, now we know we have more data on that now. And yeah. One of the things we know about sodium per liter is we've had people retested. It doesn't change. It's genetic. So one thing that the sodium per liter is genetic, but what is trainable is your sweat rate. So meaning how much liquid per hour you're dumping. And that's easy to test. Anyone can do that at home. They can go way naked, go for an hour run, don't pee, go for an hour run, don't drink, don't pee, and come back and towel off and weigh yourself naked again. If you lose a pound, you need to drink 16 ounces an hour in those conditions. So one of the things one of the takeaways I've come out of this from is I need to test, say in the taper, every time I taper before a race, I need to test in the heat of the day and in the coldest part of the day. So That's two times during the day that I need to do that test. So that means I need to see what my height of heat conditions are at my dump rate. And if that's say 2 pounds, that would be 32 ounces. That would be a liter an hour basically. And then if it was early in the morning, like 5 a.m. when it's the coldest part of the day, if I went out and ran in 40 degrees or 35 degrees here in Flagstaff and in the early morning, and I only dumped a half a liter, a pound, I lost a pound in an hour. So I can extrapolate that data based on the heat of the day versus the night. And then you can say, okay, well, the heat just broke at 5 or 6 p.m. going into the night. Well, maybe it's 3/4 of a liter an hour, And so you can guesstimate on that drink rate, and then you probably won't retain much water. And so I think there's 2 pieces to hydration, at least the way I'm coaching it now. And that is, if you've had your test, we know what your genetic sodium dump rate is. That doesn't really change. What does change is sweat rate.
Yeah, it's pretty stable. Let's just say it's more stable because you can change hormonal stuff and other stuff and that'll change it slightly. But you're right, that's a more stable thing. But the environmental conditions are so dynamic, and that's why, like I said to you,
you got to back off on your drink rate.
Right, you got to consciously back off, because when the heat breaks, your body's still thinking it's got to drink to maintain that really high sweat rate. But until those hormonal and enzymatic change, like the vasopressin hormone and all these things shift, that takes a little bit of time. And then all of a sudden you find yourself, like you said, retaining fluid, and it takes forever to dump.
Yeah, it took days. So I was dealing with it the rest of the race. And then I was dealing with it after the race for like 2 days before I really got it all peed out. So it just takes a long time once you retain that water. So the goal is to avoid doing that, right? So you don't have that extra water weight. One, you're carrying extra water weight. So even if you came into the race like lean, mean fighting machine, you're like, 5-6 pounds up, and you're like having to carry that uphill. So,
well, and not only that, but that when you get into that, you start to get the potential for blistering goes up because you're retaining fluid in your feet, and it really does that too. Let's talk about your hydration. I mean, we talked about all the water you're drinking, but we didn't talk about the electrolyte stuff.
I probably drank it a little too much, like we talked about earlier. I hydrated too much on night 1, which made me retain water, and then I was very conscious of it after that. I really backed off on night 2, so I didn't retain any more water, but I was just peeing like crazy, just trying to get rid of all that fluid. It was getting annoying, where you'd be like every 20 minutes, oh, I got to pee again, dude. Hold on. And like, my pacer was like, dude, you're peeing a lot. I'm like, I know, I'm trying to drop all this fluid. So
yeah, that happened to me in my first 100, which was Western States in 2006, the year it got super hot. That was the year, what's his name? Morrison collapsed on the track.
Yeah. I remember that.
Right. And that's what happened to me on ALT from the river, because, it's hot. It was hot, the hottest race in the history of the race. And that's how I learned exactly how I advised you. Like when the heat breaks, you got to consciously back off, because
you got to back off.
When the heat broke for me, I was still drinking all the way up to the ALT aid station. I picked up 5 pounds.
Right. And that's back when they weighed you, right?
Yeah. And then after that, literally every 10 to 15 minutes, I was having to stop and pee, and I got blisters and everything else. And it was just like crazy. I mean, from ALT to 49, I was just like peeing like a racehorse on Lasix.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So yeah. No, I feel your pain there, and it is annoying. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks for this conversation. Any final closing comments on how far you've come and Moab 240 and what you got going on? What do you got next?
Well, before I signed up I sent an email and I got an invitation to Desert Solstice Invitational in the 24-hour in December. So as long as my metatarsal is okay, I'm planning on being on 24 hours on the track in Phoenix in December. So I've never done that before. It's totally
that's going to be a challenge for you.
It's out of my wheelhouse. I've never done it. And I kind of just wanted to do it to try it and see what it's like. I'll probably never do another one after this, but that's what I have on the plan. And if my metatarsal head is like kind of still aggravated and I can't really get back,
you're going to pass.
If it's a limiting factor, then I'll not show up there and probably do something. I'm looking at cold water rumble 100-miler in January in Phoenix as a 100-miler to do. So that might be a backup plan. I don't know yet, but I just entered the lottery for Hard Rock again. So hopefully I get picked in the lottery again. I got a lot of tickets. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and as a shout out to Aravampi Running, I mean, I've done a couple of the across the years runs. I never thought in my life I'd do a run like that, but they put on such a good event that I'm like, this isn't bad at all.
No, it's kind of fun. It's really social. I think that's what's cool about these loop courses, or even the multi, like the 24-hour time stuff. Like I'm kind of interested to try it. I wanted to do something where I didn't have to worry about logistics and crew and getting friends to try to show up. My wife's just going to go down there and hang out at the track and, crew for me.